Listen up or run for cover. Dropping knowledge from the people who have it to the people who need it. The real Brad Lee is dropping
what it is. Brad Lee back again with another episode of Dropping Bombs. Today in the studio, I've got Daven Michaels, folks. If you haven't heard of Daven Michaels yet, I'm sure that you will. He's the CEO and founder of 123 Employee, which is a huge virtual assistant firm. New York Times bestselling author of like 100 million books, or at least 10, right?
Something like that, yeah.
10 of them.
10 million.
Yeah, and he's kind of a coach and mentor to a lot of the coaches and mentors, teaching people how to scale businesses, do a number of things. Welcome, Daven.
Hey, it's great to be here, Brad.
Hey, so let me ask you a question. I've always wondered, because virtual assistants, I always thought, hey, that's a good idea, man. But I don't know how to use one, because everything I'm thinking in my head is like, hey, go pick up my dry cleaning. Hey, run my lunch. Go grab my lunch. That's a real assistant. What would a virtual assistant do?
Yeah, so virtual assistant does internet marketing, social media, telemarketing, back office tasks, inbound, outbound voice, reminders. The list goes on and on, but everything minus real world. So there's a lot of things that we can do that you would think you would need a physical assistant to do that we can still do. Things like we can open up your snail mail. We can look at your mail for you, and we can forward it, and we can deposit your checks. We can send out faxes. We can send out direct mail pieces. So there's a lot that we can do, and every day there's more things that we can do as the world becomes more virtualized because of technology, innovation.
Well, that's what I want to find out, because look, I wish if I could to live on a laptop and a cell phone.
Yes, sir.
Where I don't have to show up here at all.
That's right. Sing it, my brother.
But I just don't know how to do it.
The key is processes, Brad. So I teach people, for the last decade, I've taught people how to have virtual businesses. And so many people have virtual businesses. They work from home. They work on a laptop. I, like you, have a brick and mortar business. I have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of employees on 3 continents. We have 3 buildings. I mean, it's a big, chunky business. But a decade ago, I redesigned that business. We systematized everything in my business. I just decided I'd hit a point, 20 years of grinding. I'd been building a business. I got to a certain pinnacle. I said, you know what? I said, it's time to change chapters in my life. I said, from now on, I'm going to have a business, or a life that I design rather than a life that my business dictates for me. And that's when we systematize everything in my business. Today, I still run that brick and mortar company. We still have so much overhead, so many employees, but I'm able to run my business from a cell phone and laptop from some of the most exotic places on the planet. And that's what I do. I'm always traveling. I go into I literally physically go into our offices maybe a few times a year. I'm in my offices virtually all day long, every day, but physically maybe just a few times a year.
And virtually, you mean like through Zoom?
Skype. So we use Skype, we use Slack, we use everything, but at the end of the day, we use Skype so much. So I'm on Skype all the time with my C-suite, not a couple of my project managers, not my project managers, my operations managers. But besides that, it's just my C-suite. That's it. But I am on Skype with them all day long.
What are you doing? Just communicating like you would if you were in the office?
Yeah, I mean, everything I do is on a high level. So we're working on high-level marketing strategies. We're looking to optimize our operations to make our employees more efficient, our clients a lot happier. But it's just big picture. That's all I'm focused on, not minutia at all. Everything. I'm probably the most outsourced guy on the planet. So all day long. Now, here's the interesting thing. I've been self-employed for a long time, like you've been self-employed for a long time. And I find that most entrepreneurs, at the core of who we are, we're micromanagers. And that's just because we were born in a time that didn't have the innovation that exists today. So all day long, I'm literally asking myself, is this the highest and best use of my time? Is this the highest and best use of my time? And if it is not, it is outsourced and leveraged to somebody else. And the biggest trap that entrepreneurs have is that they're working on something and they say, oh, this will just take me 5 minutes. And then they just do it themselves. Well, as you know, in the entrepreneur world, 5 minutes is 2 to 3 hours, right? That's the reality. So a few 5 minutes a day and your day is gone. So I'm literally outsourcing and delegating everything all day long. And sometimes that means having to create a mini process or have something mapped out. So I have to literally take 2 steps backwards to take 1 step forward, but it's worth doing.
Well, I think that's been my mistake because I'm trying to, build a business, and it turns out I've built a job.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, that is the entrepreneur's trap, right? Entrepreneurs are the only people on the planet that will work 80 hours a week for themselves, so they don't have to work 40 hours a week for somebody else.
Yeah.
Right. That's what we do.
I know, but it sounds like you're the guy that can show people how to get out of that trap.
Yeah, that's what I do. That's what we've been preaching for the last decade. And the reason why that is, Brad, there's actually a reason for it. And that's because a decade ago, we started our outsourcing business. And we were very early in the game. We were literally first to market, if not second to market. And I always say you can always tell the pioneers because they're the ones with the arrows in their back. And that was kind of us in the very beginning. So in the beginning, we knew that entrepreneurs needed outsourcing, right? They needed leverage in their business. But that was a need, not a want, right? So they all needed it, but nobody knew that they wanted it. They didn't know that it existed. So we really realized very early on that if we wanted to have a market, we'd have to somehow carve that market out, kind of like you have done with Lightspeed. So we didn't have a market. So we sat down, we said, well, how are we going to create this market? How are we going to make the world know what we're doing? And we decided to adopt an educational model. So I started writing books, eventually hit the New York Times list. I started creating info products. We started doing our own events all over the globe. I started speaking on stages all over the globe, and we began educating our prospects and turning them into clients. And that's still the model that we use today. We're always educating our people. So we're showing people how to live this virtual lifestyle that they all want. And of course, one of the ways to get there is utilizing our virtual team and 1 to 3 employee.
So you listed off a couple things. You said marketing. They can do marketing.
Yeah.
So why are they called a virtual assistant?
Well, because they're their assistant, but they don't work on their premises. So that's why they're a virtual assistant.
Yeah, because to me, an assistant is almost like, hey, proofread that, make sure I didn't spell anything wrong.
Yeah, there's all types of different applications. So some people have, I guess, what we would call an EA, right? An executive assistant. Like my assistant, LJ, is really like my executive assistant.
She live?
How do you mean live?
Like, do you see them every day?
I see her every day. Yeah, I see her every day on Skype. So once again, just another person that I'm with every single day on Skype. She's on my phone. She's in my text. If
you texted her right now and said, send me lunch, how's she going to do that?
Well, that would be easy. She has a list of like the restaurants that I like. She'd say, what do you want? I'd say Chin Chin, and it would be there an hour later. I mean, that's easy.
But she knows where you are.
She does.
How, I'm just trying to find, how do you know where the good ones are? Like, do you have good people that would like overwhelm me with their...
We do. But here's what I've learned is that the great ones are created by you. And what I mean by that is that to have somebody exceptional, you have to make the investment in them. And once again, it's that taking one step back to take 2 steps forward. I'll give you an example. So most entrepreneurs, when they look for a virtual assistant, they're looking for a strategist. That's what they want. They want a high-level strategist. And unfortunately, that's unrealistic. You have to think of a VA overseas as a task executor rather than a strategist. But if you invest the time and if you keep working with them, then they become a high-level strategist. So my EA or executive assistant, LJ, has been with me for over a decade. We actually just celebrated our 10-year anniversary together. I have obviously made major investments in LJ by spending so much time with her. Today, she's a genius in my business. I don't know how I could live without LJ. And because I created profit sharing in the early days from a management team, she'll never leave me because she's rich, which is pretty awesome. Matter of fact, I'll tell you about that real quick because it's kind of neat. So when we created the company, I wanted to make sure I could lock people in because we were going to make major investments in our people. And so I put a profit sharing plan in place, knowing that if we got to where we wanted to go, they would literally be set for life. Because remember, it's the Philippines. It's a developing nation. Your money goes a long way over there. So we put that in place. We got a lot further than we thought we were going to be. And so my management team is locked in. They could never, ever, ever leave me, which is awesome. But yeah, I made that investment in LJ. And today, I mean, she's so bright and such an integral part of our operation. And she literally knows what I'm thinking before I think it, which is pretty incredible.
Is she Filipino?
She's Filipino. All my people are Filipino.
So you had to be there at some point?
No, I mean, I did. In the early days, on average, I would spend about 4 months a year at our business, because remember, my business is in the Philippines, so it wouldn't make sense for me to just go back and forth all the time. So when I'm there for a month. And so I used to spend 4 months a year at our company. And I guess in the first year it was even more than that. But no, I mean, 90% of the training that I've done with LJ over the years has really been virtual, because, I only spend a month or two a year now at our offices. So
I know someone over there. They live there permanently. They say it's great.
Yeah, I mean, that was my plan. I actually, when I first started our companies, our first center was in Cebu, and I built a place in Cebu, planning to live there. That was my plan. I wanted to live in Asia. I was doing a lot of work in Southeast Asia, and I really enjoyed it. And then I met my girlfriend Liz, and she was stateside. So that was a decade ago. So that kind of screwed that whole thing up. So now we're kind of back and forth.
Is she Filipino?
She's not. She's actually Guatemalan, but everybody thinks she's Filipina because she's with me, and she looks, she's dark skinned. So yeah, it's pretty funny.
So you kept saying you found a systematize.
Yeah, and I have to tell you, for those of you that are listening to this and thinking, that sounds great, I'm not a systems person, so on and so forth. Well, guess what? I'm not a systems person either. My guess is you're probably not, Brad, either. I mean, you may be, but I know for me, I'm visionary. That's what I'm in my business. It's probably what you are too, right?
100%.
Absolutely. So you are creating all the time, and then you leave this trail of stuff for people to actually create, right? To actually make your dreams and your ideas come to life. And thank the gods, that's what I do too. That's what I have. So I am not a process person at all. I'm absolutely a visionary. And I'll tell you how that came to pass, how I got to a point where I have all these people doing all this great stuff for me. So I've had leverage for a long time because I've had hundreds and hundreds of employees. But a decade ago, I brought on, actually, let me preface this a second. So there's been several tipping points in our business. And I'll share those because I think it's interesting for your audience. So one of them was when we went from marketing to one to marketing to many, which I'm sure you can relate to because you always market to many, right? When you do your podcast, many people are listening to you. When you are up on your platform, many people are listening to you. My guess is, well, you actually do some marketing to one also, but it's high ticket. So of course you market to one person. But otherwise, when we made that shift, marketing to many, I started speaking on stages. We started doing events all over the globe. I started writing books, started creating info products. Every time I open my mouth, I'm talking to large chunks of people as opposed to one. That's how I grew my business exponentially. So that was one tipping point in my business. Next tipping point in my business was when Tim Ferriss's book came out, The 4-Hour Workweek, right? Now that was a game-changing book for a lot of people, right? It really shifted their mindset. For me, it was game-changing for a different reason. And that reason was because when we started the company a decade ago, we were a U.S. company based in the Philippines. Back then, a decade ago, outsourcing was a dirty word. Okay. If you spoke to Americans in the U.S. about outsourcing, they thought it was un-American. And there was a lot of bad negative sentiment around that. So every day we would get FU calls every day. People would call, pick up the phone and say, 123 employee, how can we help? FU, click. Okay. We would get emails. FU, you're stealing American jobs, FU. Which is interesting, right? Now it's a decade later, we live in a different world. Everybody outsources. You source your goods and services wherever it makes sense in the world, right? We live in a flat world now. Okay, so that has changed dramatically. So when Tim Ferriss's book came out, we were able to switch from defending ourselves to educating our market. Okay, and that changed everything for us. So marketing one, marketing many. Okay, but the biggest shift in our business was when I brought in our first C-level executive, Bijal, our VP, who you've met, Bijal. And what happened was, the key here is that most solopreneurs and entrepreneurs have no leverage in their business. So the steps are this. You start hiring some people overseas if you can't afford to hire them in the U.S. You get leverage on your business. You begin to scale that business. And then the next step in your evolution is C-levels, right? You get to a point where you have more money and you start bringing in C-levels. And what happened for me, I remember I still had about 100, 150 employees. And I had a lot of leverage in my business, but there were so many ideas and things that I knew would move the needle in my business. But they were high level. I had to execute those. And so it wasn't until I had another one of me that we began to create those things and make those things happen in our business. And that's when our business really exploded. So when people think about getting virtual help in their business, it's a two-step process. One is you just get some leverage, get the minutia off your plate so you have a scalable business. And then the next step is you start bringing in C-level so you can duplicate you. And then your business grows exponentially.
Well, how do you find and trust those people?
C-levels?
Yeah.
That's a really good question. I find that the best people come from referrals. So, people change, those type of people, C-levels, they move from kind of company to company over the years. And, maybe they're in transition and somebody says, hey, have you met this person? For me, I do like to get referrals. I can tell you my very first C-level, Bijal, I went with my gut. Entrepreneurs tend to go with their gut. And so what happened was, it's a long story. I'll give you the short version of that story. But I was speaking on stage. It was my very first time speaking on stage. I was speaking for Marshall Silver. And Bijal was in the audience. And he heard me speak. He had just gotten into the outsourcing business. He had a couple of employees, and then here's this guy on stage with a couple hundred employees, and he's like, oh, shoot. But rather than going home and just calling it a day, he came up to me at the end of my presentation. He said, hey, I'm doing this outsourcing thing. Maybe we could, work together. And I didn't really need him, but I said, hey, we do have an affiliate program. Here's my card. And I think he called me the next day. And this began a dialogue that went on for about 6 weeks. First, we talked about affiliate. Then we talked about JV partner and super affiliate. And as we talked, he had these incredible ideas. I was so impressed. And at the same time, though, I felt like he was a kindred spirit. I felt like he was a brother from another mother. And I was so impressed by him. Finally, after a month and a half, we got together in a coffee shop in San Diego. And I said, listen, you're so bright, and I really feel like we could do something. I said, why don't you just come work with us, and we'll take over the world? And that's what we did. And actually, my contract with him, which was pretty incredible, was basically this: I will teach you everything I know. Don't F me. That was my contract. We shook hands. And a decade later, he's still with me. It was the best contract I ever did. I guess I would say signed, but we didn't sign it. I would never suggest anybody do that. Always, get it in writing. But it was just one of those magical relationships. And here we are a decade later, and we're killing it. And
but he knew something about the business. Like
if
I hire a C-level and they have no idea what we do here, how do you bring in?
He knew. I would say, just so you know, Brad, I would say he knew almost nothing. He knew very little about the business, but he had the skills that I didn't have. People always ask me, Daven, what do you do in your business? Or they'll ask Bijal, what do you do in the business? And he says, I do everything Daven doesn't do. And then they ask me, I say, I do everything Bijal doesn't do. I mean, he had training and formal training. I always say that, I'm a college dropout. I always say, had I graduated college, I'd be working for me. And that's because I employ a lot of, college graduates, and Bijal's one of those. I mean, of course, I consider him more as of a partner. He certainly is in the business. But he just has the skills that I don't have.
Yeah. My biggest apprehension in hiring C-levels is when you bring someone in that's supposed to be in charge of someone that's going to have to teach them what they're doing.
Yeah.
What's the justification?
Yeah, that can be a challenge. I've had that challenge, I suppose, with other C-levels that I haven't really trained them personally. With Bijal, it was a whole different ballgame because he was the first on board. He was my number two.
Well, again, I mean, like, for example, let's technically for a minute say like I'm an LMS, which I'm not, but that's a founder's mentality. Mm-hmm. Everybody else might say that I am. So let's say I'm a LMS. Okay, well, if I snagged the chief financial officer, and by the way, finance, you can get a C-level anywhere because, finances are finances. Mm-hmm. But let's say, operations, I'm looking for a COO.
Yep.
Well, I could steal Chrysler's. Doesn't mean they know what they're doing here.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think that if they can be Chrysler's COO, they can certainly figure out how to be your COO. Do you know what I'm saying? Like the same principles apply. It's still the same framework. It's just a different operation. That's what I find.
Well, that's my challenge. I got to get past that because I always keep thinking, like, how am I going to bring someone in, put them in charge of a bunch of people that know what we do, and they don't know what we're doing?
Well,
why wouldn't I elevate one of those people?
You know what you do too? You bring them in, you give them a contract, and you have a cool-off period, right? So they have, maybe they're on probation for the first 90 days or something like that with a small severance package, and then you find out.
Now, virtual assistants, if I wanted to outsource, let's say, graphic design, would I call you?
Yeah, you could. I would say graphic design is not our strongest point. we do it, but there are other companies like I believe it's called Graphic Pickle, that they literally, that's all they do. But if you need somebody to sort of manage your life, do all the busy stuff in your business, help you with your marketing, all the minutia, all the everyday stuff, then yeah, that would be us. Now, also, we actually do two things. So for small companies, for solopreneurs and entrepreneurs, we do virtual assistant services. For larger companies, we do customer service, inbound, outbound voice.
And is there a lot of accents or no?
So the way it works is our people run the gamut. So we have people that have very strong accents and they're very techy, and then we have people with very light accents, bubbly, vivacious personalities that may not be as tech savvy. So you let us know what your needs are, and we give you people that match your needs. So if it's customer service, then it's people with incredibly light accents and very westernized and great personalities. Yeah.
What would the average VA cost me?
Yeah, sure. So full-timers are $13.87 a month. You can go, though, as low as 40 hours a month. A lot of people have part-timers with us, but our best pricing is at full-time.
You said 40 hours a month as opposed to
160 hours a month.
That's full-time.
It's full-time. Sorry, part-time is 40 hours a month, exactly.
Yeah. So
we do 40 hours, 80 hours, and then 160.
And $13.87.
$13.87.
See, dude, I'd replace everybody here if
Right.
I could. No, I'm just joking. I would.
You definitely have a lot of physical needs here as well.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I couldn't. Right. I wouldn't replace everybody anyway. But but I'm looking to expand. We just started actually marketing, and the marketing is producing some crazy results.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go through an expansion phase, but I want to be smart this time because I've been foolish before.
Right here.
I want to be able to, leverage like a company like yours and virtual assistants intelligently to support maybe some physical people.
Totally. And you know what so many people do with us too is, and they're hiring us all the time to do this, is assistants for their assistants. So it's like VAs for people that are integral in your business. I'm sure that you have tons of people that you brought into your business to be high level, but instead they're doing stuff that could be outsourced for $8 an hour, right?
Yeah.
And so that you take all that stuff off their plate, and then they become much more effective. I'll tell you something that's kind of cool. So I have a consultant that I work with, and he does a lot of consulting up at Silicon Valley. So a little while ago, he's based in Israel, but a little while ago he said, hey, listen, I'm going to be doing some consulting. I'll be at this accelerator. Why don't you come up for a week, bring your management team, and I'll just introduce you around to people in the Valley, which was so awesome because they are just, the stuff that's coming out of there is just insane. Like, I was talking to my girlfriend. I was sitting in a coffee shop. I said, babe, here's the difference between Silicon Valley and Vegas. I said, in Vegas, people are in coffee shops. They're talking about art. They're talking about fashion. They're talking about music. And in coffee shops in Silicon Valley, they're talking about how they're going to change the world, right, through technology. So anyways, my point was that he said, come up. I'll introduce you to people in the Valley. We met so many incredible people. By the end of the week, we were one level away. Like, we were hanging out with people that were hanging out with Larry and Sergey the night before. We were one step away from them. It was so cool. But my point that I was going to tell you, we were talking about bridging virtual versus physical. So we got to the accelerator, and this robot comes up to me. And kind of its wheels are spinning, and it comes right up to me. Hey, welcome. How are you? There's a person on the screen. That person was in India. So there was a physical person walking me through the facility, but they were based in India.
That's cool.
It's pretty cool, right?
That's real cool.
Yeah, and I'll give you an example of that. So a friend of mine owns a company. He helps people that sell large packages. He helps them get financing. Matter of fact, you may have something for that, but I should introduce you to him if you don't. So anyways, his name is Bruce. So Bruce is hired by a lot of promoters to go out to events, bring his team, and get people at the event credit. But sometimes, as you know, attendance can fall short, right? And so sometimes he would send out the teams and it'd be a big home run. Other times he'd send out the team, the attendance was low, and he kind of took a bath on it. And I said, Bruce, why don't you order these units, ship them out in advance, have your team on them virtually, sitting down with people, getting people credit. He's like, that's an amazing idea. And he implemented it. And now every single event he's profitable on.
That's pretty amazing right
there. Pretty cool, right?
So let me ask you this. If I said to you, hey, I want to put on an event, but I don't know how to sell the tickets to it.
Yeah.
Can your teams do that?
Yeah, that's something so we do events. We've been doing events for the last decade in Australia, Europe, Asia, US, New Zealand. And here are the different ways that we utilize our virtual team. So first of all, people register for the event. So when they register, they get an initial call, right? Just an indoctrination call. From there, we communicate with people back and forth on social media. We're answering responses from ads for the events as well. We're doing the week before calls. We're also reaching out on social media to sell more tickets. Our people are just doing a whole bunch of different tasks behind the scenes for the event. So yeah, that's a perfect example of something you'd use a virtual team for.
Yeah, so I'm going to find a way to definitely leverage your resources because it just makes sense. If anybody on the bomb squad's listening, you're struggling, you're trying to scale your business, you don't have enough time, you're running out of your own time, dude, unload some of that crap to some virtual assistants. I was just trying to think before you got here, like what can I have done? Like it seems like if you made a list, do you have a list?
Well, so yeah, we have a list, of course, on the site, which is 123employee.com. But I always tell people, I say, listen, take a sheet of paper, put a line down the middle. On the right-hand side, make a list of your income-generating activities, your IGAs. So all the things, as you know, Brad, there's about 10,000 things you can do every day in your business, but just a small handful that really create the immediate bottom line results where you can see the profitability right away on. So you make that list. On the right-hand side, put all of the IGAs, the income-generating activities, the tasks that literally bring money right into your business. And then on the left-hand side, make a list of everything else, all the stuff that takes up your time in a day. Because remember, time equals money, right? Mm-hmm. So then on the right-hand side, circle everything that you feel could be outsourced or delegated to somebody else. And then also take a minute and say, okay, there's going to be some things on that list where you say, no, only I can do that. Nobody else on the planet can do that. But say, hey, look, if I had a month to do a brain dump into that person of everything I know, then what else could be outsourced? Circle those. Those are the first things you want to attack, right? Because they're going to make more money for you. And when you make more money, your virtual assistant is no longer a liability. Maybe you'll start hiring more of them. We win. You win. Our brothers and sisters overseas that have far less than you could ever imagine, they win too. Now you're in good shape. Now you start attacking the left-hand side, which is the minutia, right? Because the more time back you can get, now you can really start scaling a business. Brad, you have a larger company. Many of the people that are listening have small companies. They're solopreneurs or one or two person shops. And that is the big trap. Today, because of innovation and technology, there are so many things you could, in theory, do in your business, right? In theory, you could design your websites. You could do your marketing. You could do your sales. You could do your fulfillment. In theory, you could do everything in your business. Technology makes that possible. Now, granted, you would need 100-hour days, and that doesn't exist, but you could do it. But what happens is entrepreneurs, even though you need a 100-hour day to attack all that, they seem to think, hey, I'm just going to give it a shot, right? Well, if you're doing that, that's how you create a job for yourself, right? Now you're working your tail off. You're spinning your wheels. You're surviving, but you're not scaling. You can't scale when you're that deep into the minutia. So if you can get the minutia off your plate, now you can come back, start looking at the big picture and figuring out how you can grow your actual business, how you can actually scale that. And that's what happened for me when I brought on Bijal, and we brought on more people like that.
And you do, I don't know why I always have trouble, consulting. Yeah. You do consultations.
We do and we don't. So we have events around that. We have our masterminds around that. But what we do for our clients is we create processes for them. So as a value add, we'll take a look at your processes. If it's stuff we can do pretty easily, we do it. If it's something that's a little more complex, then we charge fees for that.
What about training these people? And I'm not bringing it up because it's an obvious entree into, well, why don't you have Lightspeed? You said you were here a couple years ago. Like, why didn't we close you? I must have sucked that day.
No, you were actually quite compelling.
The only question is like, I'm thinking in my head, man, I could use one for that. Man, I could use one for that. But then how do I train them?
Yeah.
Am I training them on my time, my dime?
You are typically. So we can create some trainings for you. Training is on your dime. Just remember, I mean, it's not expensive to hire us anyway, so it's not really
$13.87 for a full-time employee.
Exactly.
Shit, give me 10, even if they don't do nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
Matter of fact, can they just like comment on all my social media all day?
They could. Yeah. We have people all day long that just bring us in for social media.
I'll just hire 10 fans.
Yeah, exactly. Or we just have people that bring us in for scheduling. We can do whatever needs to be done.
I just wrote down gatekeeper.
A gatekeeper is a huge one. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, like call Becky or whatever their name is.
Yeah.
Call so-and-so. And they don't have to know that so-and-so is in Philippines. Can I give them a phone number in the U.S. that they answer?
Absolutely. You can do all that. I mean, really, so-and-so can be you too. So let me give you an example. So I spoke at an event a couple weeks ago here in Vegas. There's about 1,400 people in the room, right? So during my presentation, I said, "Hey, listen," I said, I gave away something. I gave a copy of my new book. We can talk about that in a few too. And so I said, "Hey, I want to stay in touch with all of you. Everybody, pull out your phones. Pull out your phones." So I had them pull out their phones. I said, "Hey, everyone, let's be connected. Go to daven360.com." Okay, so they go to the URL. They pull it out. I think we raffled a book away. I said, "Hey, all my social media bugs are there." I said, "But don't worry about that for right now." I said, "Just I want you to have my contact information. So click contact." Great. I said, "Now save my contact info." Okay, great. All right, cool. And then we gave away the book or what have you. Well, now what happened is they have my contact information in their phone, and they've reached out to me. So now they're in my system, right? Well, now when they get a text from me, it says from Daven Michaels. It's actually from my assistant, LJ. And when they have questions or if they want to purchase something from us or there's customer service concerns, they're literally reaching out to me personally. It's not me, but it's an extension of me.
Mm-hmm.
So so you can do all that kind of stuff. I mean, LJ is an extension of me.
Now, how do I communicate?
Oh, and by the way, too, just to not to cut you off there, but LJ answers all my emails. She's answering my texts, a lot of them. As a matter of fact, the other day, so I live half the year here. I live half the year in Puerto Rico. So I was with our friends in Puerto Rico. We're having dinner, and I hold up my phone. I go, I think we got on the subject of VAs, and I held up my phone, and you could see on my phone texts going back and forth. "Oh, yeah, I need this. Yeah, okay, I got this." People were talking to me, but it wasn't me. And that happens all day long.
Yeah. So again, that's why training would be vital.
Yes. So that was your question. So we can help you with those trainings, but ideally you can also help yourself. And what's really easy, the simplest, and I've done every training in the world. So we could do printed material, we could do this, we could do that. But the easiest thing is this: 90% of everything you do is on computer. That's just the world we live in today for most businesses. So what you're doing is you're an Apple user, right? So you literally, every time you're doing something that you want to outsource to somebody else, you open up QuickTime and you start recording screen capture videos. And then this creates your trainings for your VAs. So I'll give you an example. One thing, the lowest hanging fruit is your email, right? You should have somebody taking care of most of your emails. So what happens is I have my public email address. When I first started answering those emails, I was recording them so LJ could see how I was doing all that. Now she knows how to she can answer 95% of my emails. If anything is timely and important, she'll forward it to my private address in real time, maybe 2 or 3 emails a day. If anything is important but not timely, she will save up those emails, consolidate them, and I receive 1 email a day. That email takes me 3 or 4 minutes to respond to, and that's a day's worth of emails. So it's a perfect example.
But you'd have to trust her.
Yes. Well, yes and no. Yes and no. So trust, there's usually 3 things that we have to look at, right? So when you think about outsourcing to somebody overseas, the biggest concerns are this. One is credit cards, right? You probably want to give your credit card information to your VA so they can, book things for you and take care of things that need to be taken care of. 2 is passwords, right? You're definitely going to give your passwords to your virtual employee. And the 3rd usually seems to be database, like my client list, right? Those are usually the top 3. I think what you were probably referring to there was maybe your emails, like responding to your emails. But look, if they get it wrong, you can always take them out of the email. I mean, that's pretty easy to do. So let's address those 3 things. So first of all, credit cards. Well, the maximum liability you have on a credit card is $50. That's the reality. Now, in our decade at 123 Employee, it's been more than 10 years now, we've never had a security breach. So I feel like you have nothing to worry about. But the reality is if somebody went rogue, took your credit card, your maximum liability is $50.
Yeah, I'm not talking about that kind of trust. I'm talking about somebody for example, someone shoots me an email. How do they know if it's important or some slick talking bullshitter that's getting past the gatekeeper?
Yeah, occasionally, even today, LJ's been with me actually LJ knows, but occasionally she'll get stumped. So maybe somebody's really slick and she'll say, "I got this email. I don't think you want it, but just in case I wasn't sure." And I'll say, "Yeah, LJ, you were right." I mean, LJ always gets it right. Now, by the way, I'll share a couple more ideas with you. Oh, so real quick, let's talk about those other things, though, because I think most people are concerned about credit cards was 1. 2 is passwords, right? So I'm sure you're familiar with 1Password or RoboForm.
LastPass.
LastPass is the key.
They never work for me. None of those.
Oh, really? I use them all day long.
Dude, I tried LastPass, and then I forget my LastPass password.
Well, you got to remember that one.
Right. So it's like, dude, this isn't as slick as it sounds.
That one you got to remember. You just need to have.
But if it's the same password for everything, which it usually is,
Well, it should never.
why you need a LastPass?
It should never be. I mean, so we'll just take 5 seconds to address this. But dude, if you're using one master password and that gets hacked, they go out and they check everywhere from that master password. I mean, you could all of a sudden get locked out of everything. So
I've never been hacked.
Luckily, knock on wood, but I use a different password for everything, just a randomized password, and I use LastPass to generate that. But real quick, I just want to share LastPass.
Well, what if they hack your LastPass password and now they just got in everywhere?
Yes, so that master password has to be pretty decent. It has to be pretty decent.
Well, you know how the best way to do it? Create a long sentence with numbers with crazy spellings.
Yeah, that's what my girlfriend does. That's what
I do. Like you'll never guess my password.
Yeah, that's what my girlfriend does.
But I can never forget it because it's a word, it's a statement, it's a number.
Mine is not like that, but mine is just ironed into my brain. But what I will say, for people who don't know what LastPass is, it's pretty revolutionary. What makes LastPass unique and so different than any other password saver is that with LastPass, you can share passwords with others, like your virtual team, but they can't see the password. They can just use the password. And then if they go rogue and you lose them, you've shared 20 passwords with them, you hit one button and it locks them out of all 20. So they're gone. And
So
no other program is like that.
So I have LastPass. I've just never used it.
Yeah, you do have to use it.
I had to turn it off and get it out of my browser because it kept saying, want to use LastPass? But I couldn't remember LastPass.
That's funny.
So that was the trick.
Yeah, you're going to have to make that shift.
So to use LastPass, I log into LastPass and then I pick like Facebook and then it throws a random password into Facebook.
That's right.
And it will never forget.
That's right. That's right. And then I'll share one more idea on training. So, sometimes people think, well, what I need done is so intricate or it's so specific. Well, let me give you an example. So, Brad, do you travel a lot?
Sure.
Okay. So I travel a lot too, obviously. You're a speaker, you speak, and I do the same thing.
I'm more of a talker.
More of a talker than a speaker. Gotcha. So when you travel a lot, it's going to go one of two ways. When you travel a lot, you get very particular about how you travel, right? Mm-hmm. And unless you're in first class and you have the aisle seat and you have a room that's a suite and you're on the concierge level and this and that, it's the difference between having terrible travel and having great travel, right? I mean, the reality is if you're going to travel all the time, like guys like us, it's going to be great, right? You want to be kind of first class everything, right? And people may be thinking, well, I don't know about first class, but it's true. If you're traveling all the time, it's got to be first class or you're going to be hating life, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I speak in Europe and Asia and all over the world all the time. I'm going there in first class. I get there, I have sleep in a bed, I have great food, I show up, I'm refreshed, I'm ready to rock and roll. People in coach want to kill themselves, right? They need a day to decompress. So I have to travel like that. So I'm incredibly particular about my travel. I mean, it's got to be very specific, the way I book the plane, the way I book the hotel, the way I upgrade, the way this, that. So it was so specific, I literally recorded a video for every facet of the way I travel. And then I created a spreadsheet. And the spreadsheet has the columns for my travel itinerary, like, booked, a flight booked, upgrade booked, et cetera, and then the column titles match the videos. So LJ just looked at each column, watched the video, did what she had to do, did it over time, and now she knows how to do it specifically. So that's how it's done.
So now you just say, hey, I want to go to Singapore on March, and she would know, oh, he doesn't like red eyes.
The whole night.
He likes aisle seats. Do you like aisle seats?
I'm an aisle seat guy.
See,
How about you?
I'm a window.
You're a window.
I gotta look out the window, especially if there's turbulence. I don't know why, but I want to see myself get going.
Yeah, not me.
Down.
I just want to close it off, be in a dark room, and I don't even care.
But now I'm looking forward for that new plane that's got like basically an apartment.
Well, there's the Emirates flights, the A380. They have the compartments.
That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, and so does Etihad too. Or I think it's Etihad or
Etihad. Etihad Airlines.
Yeah,
it looks like Etihad.
Yeah,
those are the nicest ones I've ever been on.
Yeah. I haven't been on theirs, but I've been on Emirates. It's pretty sick.
So basically, I have to train them though.
You do, but you can also have somebody on your staff train them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you communicate with them with the times difference?
So you don't have that problem with us. So 65% of our workforce comes in at midnight, works till 9:30 in the morning. And that's because 65% of our clients are based in the U.S.
So
we
they'll
match
work.
your time
They'll
zone.
work when I work.
They'll work when you work. And remember, when you outsource, you really have two options. You can use a managed facility like 123 Employee, or you can use freelancers that work from home. But the problem with freelancers, you will never get them to work your hours. Okay, they will never come in at midnight and work till 9:30 in the morning. They just won't do it. In addition to that, you're going to have problems with acts of God and power going out, and brownouts are a regular occurrence in the Philippines. You'll have
They're called brownouts.
Brownouts, yeah.
What's that?
Where small areas lose power. Brownouts, blackouts. So you'll have their internet will go down, phone will go down, power will go down, house will go down, all kinds of things.
Is 123 Employee responsible for things?
Absolutely. So
meaning, let's like one time.
I mean, like accountability.
Yeah, like I was doing a Zoom meeting one time, and this lady from the Philippines jumped on, and you could hear chickens in the background.
Absolutely, totally normal, because everybody's got a chicken in the Philippines.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, dude, if I have her or him call and do something, and there's chickens in the background, and I lose a deal, not that I would, I'm making something up. It's just a dumb example.
No, that's a perfect example. So if you have a freelancer and they're on the phone, if you're gonna have them on the phone, 99.999% chance you'll have hens, roosters, chickens clucking in the background, because everybody has chicken. Everybody has chickens and hens. It's totally normal. So in a managed facility like 123 Employee, we don't have chickens or hens. Our buildings can handle Category 5 hurricane. They don't go down. We have redundant power. We have redundant internet, which means redundant telephone. We have 99.99999% uptime. Everything's redundant. We have generators, the whole nine, and you have total accountability. So you have a project manager that's assigned to you. Whereas if you have a freelancer and they go rogue, they're just gone. They just disappear.
So can I just make up anything and they'll do it?
As long as it's something that we can do virtually, yes.
Yeah, when you say virtually,
Yeah.
Is that not a phone call?
Phone calls virtual, absolutely.
Yeah. So like, for example, I'm just thinking stuff up as you're talking. Like, I give you $13.87 a month. I got someone that's working for me 40 hours a week.
Yeah.
Whatever hours I say or they say.
Yeah, so you just pick the window. So
I say 8 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Yeah, exactly. Monday through Friday, or Tuesday through Saturday, or Wednesday through
But
Sunday.
if I want to pay extra, weekends too. What if they start to like me a lot?
Liking you a lot is good.
Yeah, we're like, they'll be flexible.
We frown on that. Well,
Yeah, because it's like, can I hire two?
actually, it's not
like
a problem.
one's
So
weekends.
Yeah, you
and
can
one's
certainly do that.
weekdays.
Yeah, you can certainly hire people. We ask that you try to keep them on a time schedule, but quite frankly, if you have a full timer and they're willing to be flexible with you, that's not a problem.
Well, you could just overlap 2 full timers.
Yeah, no problem.
You get 2 full timers for the price of one anyway.
Yeah,
Like
for the price of less
1,300.
than one. Yeah, 13,
Yeah, that's like 2,600. Like,
Yeah.
I think entry level here is $3,000
Yeah.
if you were doing nothing.
Yeah, and we just upped our prices. It used to be a lot cheaper.
Well, that's a pretty damn good deal.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, as you're talking, what can I do? Like, for example, hey, find me the best price on this. And, that might take 30 minutes of shopping online,
Yep.
but they'll go do that. And then they'll say,
Absolutely.
Brad, the best price on this particular program is over here at,
Totally.
Nordstrom's.
One of LJ's favorite things to do is, after I speak at an event, one of the things she's tasked with, and by the way, she has a whole list. I wish I could show this to you right now. I'll show it to you later. But we have my travel checklist. Okay, so it's literally like what I put in there is the name of the event, the website, the date I want to leave, the date I speak, the time I speak, all that stuff. I put all that information in, and then literally LJ just starts going down the columns, right? So she books the flight, she books the hotel, she books the upgrades, then she books my limo, both ways. Then she's got speaking time, so she needs to write some content around that because we do some promotion around it.
She writes content?
She has the content written, and then she does the aggregation of that.
But she has copywriters at her beck and call?
We have copywriters at her beck and call. Then let's see. Sorry, from there we go to what is she doing next? Oh yeah, so I shoot a vlog all over the world. So I have camera crews that follow me. So then she books a camera crew. Then she makes sure the script gets written. So she's doing all this stuff, and then finally at the end, I speak at the event. LJ's a part of my presentation, so LJ's on stage with me virtually when I'm speaking on stage, okay? And then finally, when it's done, of course, she has to do the accounting because I sell quite often from stage. But then finally, the last thing, which she likes the most, is because she's a shopper, is she has to buy a gift for the promoter and send it over to him. So she just loves doing the shopping.
And you just say, hey, $500 budget.
She has a budget, yeah, and she knows what I like. I actually like to give Mrs. Fields. That's kind of my favorite to give because I think people like.
Yeah, so you've mastered the art of leveraging outsource.
Absolutely.
Help.
I'm the most leveraged person on the planet.
I need to learn what you learned. Is that the book?
This one is one of the components. Shall we talk about the book for a second?
Yeah.
Okay. So we were talking about this earlier, Brad. So I have a passion project. I wanted to create an association for virtual entrepreneurs and for aspiring virtual entrepreneurs, people that want to run their business, on their own terms and have a life that they design.
Laptop lifestyle.
Laptop lifestyle, exactly. And so so 2 years ago, I came up with an idea that I wanted to start an association for these people. I wanted to bring 100,000 entrepreneurs into it. And I shared this with my team, my staff, and they all thought I was nuts. They thought, first of all, that we wouldn't be able to deliver such a quality product for so little. But they also were just like, look, we have a thriving business that we're scaling. Why would you even consider starting something new? I said, look, I want to do this. And I enrolled all the people on my team. So at first they just did it because I was the boss. I mean, they had no choice, right? But then over time, they're like, this is a really awesome product. People started getting really psyched about it. So it's called VIA, the Virtual Entrepreneurs Association. It's all the tools, resources, discounts, education, and community that the small business owner needs to grow their business, specifically ones that want to be virtual. And so to commemorate the launch of VIA, which launched August 1st, I wrote my 10th book. It's called The Virtual Entrepreneur. And we actually created this special box. And when you join VIA, you actually get one of these boxes. We'll show you what's inside. There's a letter from me. And then inside here is a personalized membership card. This one doesn't have a name on it, but it arrives with your name on it. And then you get a hardbound copy of my new book, The Virtual Entrepreneur. And when this comes out in the stores, it's going to be a soft cover. So this is a commemorative edition, hardback. And then you also get my 90-day success journal because, it's one thing to read a book. It's another thing to take action, right? We know that. And so it's 90 days. And I promise you, if you chronicle your success, you'll be astounded at what happens. But anyways, when you join VIA, you get this box. And by the way, we're going to give a free membership to VIA to all of your listeners, if that's okay.
Sure.
Yeah. If you just go to,
I was about to say I'll buy one. But
yeah,
shit,
absolutely.
I'm a listener.
Yep, we'll give it to you free. You can try it out for a month or a couple weeks, something like that. If you go to, what is the URL?
And that'll teach me how to leverage this virtual assistant.
It will. It's one of the things it'll teach you. Yeah, absolutely. And I believe the URL is joinvia.org. Joinvia.org. I hope that's right.
VIA is VEA.
VEA. It's the Virtual Entrepreneurs Association, joinvia.org. And so you get one of these too. It's so
you're
awesome.
going to give one of those to everybody that's listening?
Yeah, absolutely. And
folks, you guys better pay attention. I mean, this is a nice, this isn't just, this is costing you money.
It does.
So you must be damn sure when they join, they're going to remain.
Absolutely. And in the first few days of VIA, we had thousands of people join. So there's certainly a demand for it, which is exciting. And it's just something I'm passionate about.
And they all get that?
They do. They all
folks,
get this.
Folks, if you're listening on audio, if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see the video, and it's freaking badass. It's like quality.
Badass.
This isn't some chump changes. Well designed box with the book and the card, but more importantly, it's free.
It's pretty awesome. Yeah.
And
then after that, if they love it, it's $20 a month, and I just have to check right now, make sure that I'm giving out the right URL. So
I'm gonna join.
Awesome.
Myself. So folks, good. Bomb Squad, pay attention if you guys are really hustling. I got doctors, lawyers, chiropractors, blue collar workers, landscapers, construction workers, people that are trying to move and shift their careers. Like anybody and everybody's in the Bomb Squad. But I don't, what if 50,000 people sign up?
That would be tremendous.
And there's no sign up fee.
Nope. They can just try it for free for a couple weeks. After that, it's $20 a month.
Dude, that's ballsy.
Yeah.
You're going to owe a whole lot of books.
Yeah.
Or kits. I'd call that a kit. That's not even a book.
We've already ordered a whole lot of them. Yeah, they're sitting there.
Well, dude, that's awesome. I appreciate that. Now I'm going to go join it. So when I join and I get that,
then what happens? Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
Is there a back office?
Yeah,
Is there-
there's a back office. We have weekly trainings. We have weekly interviews that
Zooms?
we're doing with thought leaders. We actually do them on the private Facebook group. That's where we do it.
full-blown trainings?
Full blown trainings. Yep.
We can't do that on a Facebook group.
We do. So the way we do it is the trainings. Actually, no, we're just doing it on the Facebook group.
Well,
yeah.
what you say training is, and what I believe training in are probably
Well, yeah, you do a
very
little bit different. Yes.
So you're giving them good information. You're exposing them to great things.
We're giving them great content. In addition to that, we've negotiated currently, and we're negotiating every day. We have a team working on it, but currently we have 671,000 discounts on things you need to grow your business, as well as entertainment, dining, travel options. The average VIA member saves hundreds of dollars a month on the things they need to grow their business and live their life.
that they're going to buy anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a no-brainer.
Yep.
You know what's funny is the only thing you're missing is the Lightspeed platform.
I know we need to talk more about that.
See, if I signed up for this, and you didn't even have to give me this unless I've signed up.
Yeah.
But as soon as I sign up, I get a password.
Mm-hmm.
The password allows you to pop up, interactively ask me questions, and then determine whether or not
Yeah.
how to respond.
Yeah, and
I might be a bigger business or a smaller
Yeah.
business. So this interactivity allows you to collect data,
Yeah.
welcome people, make sure they really understand the employee or the benefits of being a member,
Yeah.
and then interactively upsell me other things that I probably might need as a association member.
Yeah.
We'll show you.
Yeah,
But
you
that's
show
the only thing you're missing.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's freaking nice of you, man.
Yeah,
Join
sure.
VEA.org. Is that right?
Joinvia.org. Yeah.
Folks, I can't keep him here any longer because he's got to go. But I will tell you this: I appreciate you coming.
Oh, thanks, buddy.
I think this is going to be huge. When did this launch?
August 1st.
Yeah, like dude, that's a valuable deal. And you've been in the entrepreneur space for
3 decades.
3 decades,
Yeah.
and you've mastered. You damn near started virtual assisting.
Yeah, we were like so early in the game. We were maybe the first of 2 companies to start. Yeah.
So you can, by joining this, it's going to show me and teach me and expose me to the communities on how to actually leverage and get the most from it.
Absolutely. And we're very marketing specific too, because I believe the lifeblood of all business is marketing. I'm sure you'd agree. I mean,
Sure it is.
If you have a ton of leads coming through the door, if there's tons of money in your bank accounts, you can buy yourself out of any challenge you face in your business, right?
Yeah. Well, see, again, I just said we just started marketing. I hired this unbelievable marketing guru with credentials up the yin yang, very expensive, but he's for Lightspeed. Now, I could technically say, hey, start doing it for me too.
Yeah.
But hey, Lightspeed is the business, so that's who's paying for it. And technically, I have a partner, so I can't use him to blow me up. But what I'm thinking is, I'll go hire a personal assistant for Brad Lee, right? And then Brad Lee, they can go help me post and do
Promote
things.
the Brad Lee
and,
name, yeah.
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 And then I'll test you, because
Yep.
I was thinking, like, why would he give that away? That's got to be. And then it's because A, they'll remain a member.
Absolutely.
And B, they'll probably hire an assistant or two.
Yeah. No,
So you're
for
gonna
sure.
you're gonna end up getting $1,500 by giving away
Oh, for sure.
that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I, just like you, we are always growing 2 brands at 123 Employees. So we're growing the 123 Employee brand and the Daven Michaels brand. And I know that probably in the next year or 2, I'm going to exit my company. I've spent a decade, building it. And when 123 Employees gone, there's still Daven Michaels, right? That brand has been built, and it can move on to whatever the next thing is, probably VIA. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you coming in. I know
you.
you're very, very, very busy, so I appreciate you coming in, helping me drop some bombs to the listeners. Folks, if you guys haven't already went there, go to joinvea.org, sign up. It's free. Learn how to ultimately leverage virtual resources
Yeah,
that are a
absolutely.
fraction of the cost and 10 times the value anyway.
Yeah.
And go out and share and rate this podcast, pricks. I told you twice, man. If I don't get some more ratings, folks, and again, it's not a threat, it's just the truth. I do this because I want to help people. I get a lot of smart people into the studio, and I talk them into sitting down and spending an hour of their time, going over stuff that they've learned. So all the listeners don't have to. The least you can do is go give a brother a rating on iTunes, Stitcher, Facebook, SoundCloud, stuff like
For all this
that.
great free content that you're receiving, right?
Dude, are you kidding me? Like,
I think that's fair.
It's totally fair.
Totally.
I should charge.
It's not fair. It's unfair.
You just, again, I mean, like, you're one guest out of, I think I've had 200 and something. I've never charged. All I want is a damn rate, and it's totally fair. Matter of fact, have all your virtual assistants, when you get one, go give me a rating. That's another thing they can do.
Can I tell you something real quick that we did? Yeah. So, I've always had a focus on video. When I first started the company a decade ago, I decided in the early days that I was going to sit down for half a day and bang off these short knowledge bombs, if you will, on video. And I started that in the early days, and then later I got more relaxed with it. But today I have, I think 18 million views on YouTube, which has certainly made us an international company. But one of those videos during my book launch is what pushed my book over the edge. The video went viral, and that put me on the New York Times bestseller list. And one of the things we did is it was a very orchestrated campaign. And one of the first things is when we first put the video on YouTube, we started driving all this traffic to it, and then all of my people, at the time I think we had about 300 employees, and we pre-written comments for them, hundreds and hundreds of comments, and they just start hitting it. Boom, 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 boom. Contents go through the roof. Then the video gets frozen on YouTube. My whole staff was like, "What?" And I was like, "Yes," because I know the way this works. This is not my first rodeo. When you have a video that goes viral on YouTube, it starts to take off. YouTube, there's an algorithm that freezes the video for a minute. The editors look at it. If they like it, they put it on the homepage, and it takes off. And that's what happened. Video takes off, goes over the edge, book sales go over the edge, hits on the New York Times bestseller list, and that was all due to my team that made that happen.
See, I've been forgetting to drop bombs, but folks, they were dropping organically the whole time.
There you go.
Dude, the marketing's what's got me double excited.
Cool.
I mean, dude, I don't know how it's going to work yet. Folks, listen to an episode a month from now, 2 months from now, and I'll tell you how it went. Till next time, make sure you always keep it real.
Cool.